Okay, so I am here with my close personal friend, TJ Wilson. For those of you who don't know, TJ is a professional wrestler, retired professional wrestler, I suppose, these
Yes,
days,
sir.
right? So let's jump into your history a little bit. How did you get started in the world of professional wrestling?
Um, I somehow, I guess, the way I look at it, I kind of somehow won a lottery or something, and I happened to go to school with Teddy Hart, and he was like very persistent in us being friends. I was not as warm to it as he kind of was forcing it, and once I kind of gave in, I was very happy with my choice, but it just I just didn't know him at first, and then once I got to know him a little bit and got to know his family, the first time I went to his house was he lived in a gym, which like now as a 43-year-old man, I know what a gym is. But
Right.
when you're a 10-year-old kid, a gym is a gymnasium. It's where the hardwood floor and stuff. So he kept saying he lived in a gym. I remember going to his house, and if it was not what I expected, and he introduced me to a woman that was on stationary bike. He said, "This is George." Well, George, I was in my head. I'm like, "What? Why is he introducing me to gym members?" That George is his mom. He's I don't know that he's ever called his parents mom or dad a day in his life. So like right away, everything was just like I'm getting hit with like all this, just the stuff that's very different when you're a 10-year-old kid
Right,
compared to what
right.
I'm used to. And then next thing you know, we go up to Stu's for a Sunday dinner,
Now, who is
and
who
I
is
think
who is Stu? Now, I don't know how many people listening to this
I understand.
podcast are well versed in the world of
Got it.
professional wrestling, of course.
Yes, I got you. So we go up to Sunday dinner, and his grandfather is Stu Hart, who has funny enough, he has a gym in his house too, but his is a wrestling gym down in the basement, and there's a ring set up outside. Uh, when it's warm in Calgary, which is almost never, but
Right.
there's a little stretch where we get the ring set up. So when I went to his house, might have been the fall. It would have been the fall, and like at least in my mind, the ring is set up, but probably not to be honest. But I just remember like, and then they were very that like their whole family was very, very, very into professional wrestling, and I watched a little bit of it with my cousin, and I wasn't allowed to watch it because I came home and tried some of the moves on my younger sisters, and my mom
Well,
quickly
listen,
banned
we all
wrestling.
did. We all did, right?
My mom quickly banned wrestling, but I still had Ninja Turtles at the time, so I was okay. I hadn't been engulfed by wrestling yet. I hadn't been really bitten by that bug. I watched it once, tried it, and got it banned at my house. So uh, SummerSlam '92, when I saw Brett versus the British Bulldog at Wembley Stadium,
Right.
uh, that's when
That's what
my
got you.
eyes were absolutely. That is where I was like, okay, this is what I'm. That for some whatever reason, that match told me this is what I'm gonna do. I don't know. I would love to have a chat with that 12-year-old kid that watched that match and was knew for a fact he'd make it. I'd love to have a chat with him and just know where the hell his confidence came from, man. Is it funny?
Right. So after wrestling kind of grabbed you like that, how long did it take before you actually started breaking into the business? Like what was that process like? Just a short little
Yeah.
brief
So
synopsis, if you will.
yeah, I got you. Um, what happened was Harry and Teddy's brother Matthew had a match in July of 1994, and I was a wrestling fan at this point, obviously, and like I said, the SummerSlam '92 match. This is 2 years later, and uh, I remember Ted came by my house and wanted to borrow my. Well, he wanted me to come to the show, and we were gonna and bring my video camera. I had a handheld camera, and Ted didn't, and he wanted me to record this match, and I was trying to not blow him up, but I had another friend over, and I was like, I wasn't gonna go to this show. And my friend was like, oh, I have to go home anyway. So I was like, well, okay, we'll go. We went. Ted and I sat front row. Someone else recorded the match so that we could like watch it. We watched Ted's brother Matthew and Harry wrestle. And the match was like only a little over like a minute long, but we sat there like I guess so in awe of them, and like and you know how brave they were, and how just
Right.
the fact that they were like, they had this vision, and here they were accomplishing it. Harry's 8 years old.
Right.
Matthew's 11. Matt was 11 years old. So like, you know, and we looked at each other and we are like, we're going to be in that ring next. They would Stu would run these. He wasn't really running regularly. He wasn't running, and nobody was really running regularly at this time. But Stu had a long standing relationship with this little town in Alberta called Rockyford, and so they would have a little rodeo every summer, and he would do shows on the Saturday and the Sunday. And I remember we looked at each other and we knew about Rocky, and we were like, next year we're going to be wrestling at Rockyford. That was the goal,
and it happened.
And it happened July 23rd, 1995. Perfect. I had my first match.
So how old were you?
Just turned 15.
Just turned 15 years old. You're already wrestling. Man, I was not wrestling when I was 15 years old for sure. So you're 40. How old are you again?
43.
43, that's right. So you've been in the business now for
28 years.
Yeah, almost 30 years. That's a lot of pro wrestling. And you know, for people that aren't aware, pro wrestling does take quite a bit of a toll on your body, as we're going to discuss here, kind of the main topic of this little podcast. So while you were active, you wrestled in Japan, Canada, US, for different promotions, right?
Yep. Europe.
Just kind of all over.
Yep.
So at what point were you full-time on the road performing?
I guess so. It kind of happened in little spurts, and then like that was being up in Canada. The hard thing is, like, especially at that time in the late 90s, well, more so the early 2000s, the independent scene in that Northeast area, New York, New Jersey, Philly, was really blowing up. And it had been obviously prior with ECW, you know, like that area was always very strong and very good wrestling fans. And so being in Western Canada, it was like nearly impossible to get out there, and just so expensive, like promoter to, you know, buy a plane ticket.
Right.
For like an example is down the road, and I'll get back to your question, but a few years later, Homicide, a wrestler named Homicide, ran into Harry and I at a show and said, "Hey, Gabe Sapolsky wanted me to get your guys' information if I ran into you guys. He's looking for you guys." And got our stuff, and then to go do some Ring of Honor stuff at the time. And then when they looked into it, they're like, "Man, the plane ticket alone for you two is just so astronomical." And he's like, "And it's not an insult to you guys, but just the tickets are so expensive that, like, how are we gonna recoup this?" And I understood. So anyway, I was wrestling full-time, like in little spurts. Like when I went to Japan, I was wrestling for New Japan, and I was 22 years old, and I went 3 times that year. And in my, you know, I came home with, like, once I got paid in American money and converted to Canadian, I came home with, like, after those 3 tours, probably I had like 30 grand American, I think, or something. And like, I was living in Stu's guest house with Maddie, and I just felt like I was rich. I didn't really have like much overhead, so I just felt like
that is a decent amount of money back then, for sure.
But then the problem is, then I don't go to Japan for another year. But they don't, like, but they're not like, "Hey, we'll see you in a year from now." It was like, "Hey, you're probably going to be on in 2 tours. We'll probably use you." And then it was like, "No, they're going to use you in a couple tours after that." And that went on for the whole year. And then I did 1 tour, and then I did 1 tour that summer. It's only a 3-week tour. These tours are only 2 3-week tours. And then I went to England in January 05 until May. And then I came home from there, did 2 weeks. I was home for 2 weeks, and I went to Japan for a month. So like 2005 is where I really start kind of wrestling full time ish. And then really, you know, Stampede Wrestling at that point is running every 2 weeks or sometimes every week. And we'd have like other, like, if you pick out a town in Alberta, I probably have wrestled there.
How often a week were you actually wrestling? Is it just once or twice, maybe on the weekends? Or
yeah, on the weekends usually. But the training with my Japanese trainer would sometimes, it was 5 days a week, and sometimes as we get closer to like a tour or something, we'd be doing 7 days a week. So 7 days a week of like 4 or 5 hours of training and like a bunch of conditioning stuff, squats and things like that. But then like hours of wrestling in the ring.
Right.
Hours.
Yeah, I mean,
Every day.
you got to get your money's worth, right? They want you on the road. They want you in the ring for sure.
Yeah.
So leading up to 2006, 2007, when things really start to take off for you, how much massage therapy were you receiving at that point?
Not a whole lot. I
Not
remember
much.
a little bit. I pinched a nerve, I thought in my neck at the time in 03, in between trips to Japan. And I remember like I got 1 or 2 massages in Calgary and I felt better, but like, it's life. A couple hours later, I'd start to get tight. My neck, my traps would get tight again. That
Right.
numbness would come. And
So
then
you had numbness like down in your arm? Okay.
yeah, down my arm. And in my mind, like, and of course, we'll get there, but in my mind, what's so crazy, I remember I was like, I know I have a broken neck. I know I have a broken neck. Boy, I got this numbness. At that point, Edge had just gotten hurt. A few guys prior to him with Rhino and a bunch of guys, and I was like, I know it. And
Right.
it was my third tour of Japan. One of the guys was like, because I wrestled a Stampede Kid there, so they'd all call me. Most of them would call me Kid-san. Like, one of the guys was like, Kid-san, you are very tough. You never injury, never trainer's room. And then I was like, yeah, I'm kind of faking it, man. In my head, I'm thinking that.
Right.
And I was like, I'm gonna go. And then I was like, wait a minute. I'm so glad he mentioned that. I'm gonna go talk to the trainer right now about a massage. And so
Yeah.
I go there and I'm explaining to him in like, I'm speaking broken English, she's speaking broken English back to me about like, I'm trying to explain to him what's going on. And like I've seen like a wrestler in Japan be so beat up, and then like go see the trainer and they put on some tape and magically everything's okay, or like, so anyway, the guy starts to work on me and he said, okay, he's explaining to me, he said, when I push on you, if you feel like an electric shock, tell me. I said, okay. And I was explaining to him like I was positive it was in my neck or whatever. Dude, he starts like pushing. I'm like, he's kind of pushing on my chest, and I'm just like, it in my mind, I was like, what a waste of time. I'm like, no. Yep,
Right.
right there.
Exactly. That's how it always works, right? Everybody thinks it's in one spot when it's actually completely other spot for sure.
He worked on me and it was so much better. I went home and I did get an x-ray because I just wanted to be sure. And they were like, nope. Yeah, your neck's fine. You have a slight tilt. And they gave me this cream. I'm going to pronounce it wrong, but like diclofenac gel or something like that. It was a anti-inflammatory. They said they're like, when you put it on your skin, it doesn't have a heating sensation or a cooling sensation. So like it's working layers down. So dude, I put it on one time and then like I remember I was up in our guest house that we lived in, and I was watching TV and just like all of a sudden I just started feeling this pulsating and then just like this release. And like I could feel like the feeling all coming back.
Right.
The only times that the feeling would like come back and I'd feel good is when I was wrestling and working out. The problem was after doing those activities, how tight my neck and traps and body would get, and the numbness would almost feel like getting it back to kind of being numb felt worse than when it was actually numb, if that makes sense.
No, I completely understand for sure.
But then I was like, okay, this guy fixed me, and okay, I'm a massage guy now.
Exactly. All it takes is one, and then you're hooked, right? So when you're full time working with WWE, how often are you getting massages then?
Honestly, not that often at first. Little bit here and there. I guess, when you're first on the road in WWE and you're on the road 4 or 5 days a week, and it's just such a change. Because before that, I'm in developmental. I'm in FCW. I'm in the minor leagues. I'm in FCW. So I'm home every single night for like almost 2 years. And then to go on the road, and you're on the road 4 or 5 days a week, and every day is a different city, different town, different arena. So you start to tell yourself that you don't have time for things. You're like, I don't have I don't have time to get this massage because I got to do this. But the good thing is in WWE, they have a TV, they will have a massage therapist. So I would once in a while get in there, but like, you know, you're brand new, I'm brand new. So I got to make sure like more senior guys that
Right.
have the power don't, I'm not taking up their time, or I'm
Who
not, they
probably, and
don't come in
they
and then
probably
there
need
I
it a
am.
lot more, right?
Exactly. So, but the truth is, a little bit later, a couple of years on the road, is where I start really getting massages regularly.
And when do they bring a massage therapist in locally? Do they find somebody locally, or do they have somebody
Locally, yeah.
traveling with them?
No, locally.
Okay, cool. Do you know how they find those people, or does just somebody know somebody?
I think it's just somebody knows somebody, or like somebody is put in charge of it, and maybe it's the same person in every town. I don't know. And then they just probably, you know, Google or something.
Gotcha. Networking
I
is
know that
always an important thing.
we have tried to get a this girl that's really good. We tried getting like the company to like sign her, but it just, I don't know. They were very against it at that time, and I don't really know why. I don't know
How long ago was that?
this is probably a little before the pandemic. I think the boys were
Okay.
really trying to push hard.
I was thinking it would be way earlier than that.
I mean, so they used to have, I think they used to have a chiropractor maybe full time. I don't know 100% for sure.
Gotcha. So once in a while you get a massage while you're performing, right?
Yep.
What kind of massages would you be getting? Are they just kind of maintenance massages? Are you doing anything like, are you doing massages at the shows beforehand, between the shows, and what kind of massages are you getting with that?
Usually I'm getting deep tissue,
Okay.
and it would be usually like in between being on the road. Like normally I would, for the most part, I would get them when I would come home. I wouldn't really get them like if I got banged up with something, I might go get a massage from the person at TV. But like I said, I don't want to step on anybody's toes, and especially the wrong person's toes. And maybe their toes are extra sore.
Right.
So I got to make sure I really don't step on those toes.
Exactly. A lot of politics go into the
Yeah.
backstage area. You don't want to mess with
Yeah.
anybody. And of course I'm explaining all this, like, of course I know, but everybody that doesn't know, there's a lot more that goes into the pro wrestling environment than you might think.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about one of your injuries. And you've told me this story before, but let's just kind of relay this for everybody else. You destroyed your knee during a house show. That's like an untelevised show, right?
Yeah.
What happened with that? What were your injuries? And just kind of lay out everything that went into that specific injury.
I always joke around that the crowd was rocking. If that audience wasn't so hot, I wouldn't have got hurt that day.
Right. Listen, sometimes it just gets to you, right?
No, we were in Green Bay, and it was a spot, and I'm gonna get thrown out of the ring, and I'm gonna go through the ropes, and I would take a pretty like gnarly looking bump all the time. When I would take, it was just something I kind of learned to do in my
a bump
days.
is when you land, like either on the mat or on the floor.
A fall.
Right.
So I'd get thrown through the ropes, and I would almost like front roll, but like and then into a fall onto the floor. And I was very accurate at it, and it didn't hurt me. I never got hurt on that bump, and it actually looks more gruesome than what ends up happening. But anyway, the crowd was rocking, like they were so loud. It was awesome. And as I'm getting thrown out, in my mind, I was like, okay, I want to give them a little extra. I thought I could maybe like almost, we have like steel grates as the barricade, and that's, between us, the ring and the fans. And so and it's not, we have a few feet outside the ring to play with, and we use the barricades as a weapon a lot. And so last second, as I'm getting thrown through, I was like, I'm gonna dive, and straight, and the thing that's gonna break my fall is that barricade. Like, I'm gonna crash in that barricade. Like, I want this to look ugly. Like, these people are with this. I want to give them everything, and that's what I was gonna do. And as my head goes through the ropes, I was like, ooh, that's a little far. It's a little further than I thought when I was in the middle of the ring getting taken towards the ropes. As I get to the ropes, I realize, ooh, it's a little further than I thought.
Right.
And it's the only time, I think, probably in my career, where I second guessed something once I committed to it. And I was like, okay, you know what? I'll just rotate over. I'll land on my feet and fall in. Like, I'll land on my feet as close as I can to the barricade and fall into it almost in one motion. And when I landed all on my right foot, and it was completely straight. And so I hyperextended the hell out of my knee. And like, in my mind, I'm stuck on this one foot trying to fall into the barricade for like 5 seconds. Like, and then finally I fall and I hit. And I don't remember putting my hands up to hit the barricade. I don't remember any of that. I remember laying down, and I can clear as day remember this. This fan said, man, that looked like it hurt. And I was thinking,
no idea. No idea.
Not my face. I was face down, and I'm supposed to feed up for something. A wrestler, Jinder Mahal, was supposed to hit me with a flying knee behind the ref's back. And I just laid face first on the floor because I could not bend my knee. My right knee, I couldn't move it.
So what structurally was damaged?
I tore my ACL, my MCL, my meniscus, my LCL, and I had a tibia plateau fracture.
So right
and so when I saw Dr. Andrews, when he did his test,
the Lockman test, where you take the knee and kind of, or the leg, and shift it and see how much plays in the knee.
And he is so funny, man. You know how many, for those that don't know, like, Dr. Andrews is like the man when it comes to ACL surgeries, ACL repair. I mean, maybe most athletic surgeries, period, but ACL, he's the guru. Man, he literally like touched my knees like, yeah, it's torn.
Yeah.
But then he went, and I really took a lot of pride in this. Then he came back after he went and looked at the imaging, and came back, and he said, hey, you told me you're not in pain. I said, well, like, I'm not. Like, it didn't, once it was torn and stuff, a doctor here in Tampa, I went and saw him. That was where I got the MRI and stuff. And he actually took out 30 cc's of fluid and blood out of my knee. And once he took that out, it felt really good. I didn't do anything
just to relieve that pressure, because it's probably just inflammation. That's what was causing the pain that you were feeling. But
yeah, so then when I went and saw Dr. Andrews, it was a couple of weeks after the guy took the 30 cc's out. So, and my knee wasn't even really that swollen. I don't know where this stuff just kept coming from. But anyway, Dr. Andrews came in and he said, hey, you told me you're not in pain. I said, I'm not. He said, well, you're one of the toughest guys I've seen. Then he's like, your knee is almost a complete dislocation. And I was like, oh, I guess when TJ does things, I do things as big as I can.
Yeah, you go all out for sure. Yeah. So you had everything repaired, right?
Yep.
How long was your rehab, and was massage therapy part of that rehab?
Yeah, actually, like, almost right away, massage therapy. So because of the tibia plateau fracture here in Tampa, the doctor that saw me thought that I had to wait for that fracture to heal before the surgery. So I was already going to this place D1, and I was doing prehab. Well, they expect to see me on Monday for more prehab, and then here I come walking in on crutches and post-surgery,
right,
that they didn't know about, and they were like, "Oh, this is different." So then that's when the massages really started. They would massage my knee for they'd massage this gel into my knee for like 20 minutes before every therapy session, and like 20 minutes after. It was the best. It's the best part. It was when he's massaging it before the rehab, it feels really good. But I know, like, okay, now, but I got to go do all this work on this knee. When he'd be massaging at the end of the session, it'd be like, oh, this is over. Today's over, thank God. Like,
Right.
and his name was Al. The two guys I worked with at D1, Al and Mitch, they were amazing. I was going 3 days a week, probably 3 hours at a time, especially once I started getting a lot more mobility. I remember asking, I said, hey, can I come? I just wanted to get better. And I was like, can I come 5 days a week? And they're like, no. They're like, we work you so hard. You need that recovery day. And I was
Exactly.
like, are you sure? Like, yeah, okay. Just make it.
Yeah,
Double sure.
just calm down. Just calm down. You'll
And
get
I had a
better.
lot of
You'll
my
get better.
friends now and telling me, hey, this is the first time you've ever been like injured. We know that you're like crazy, good crazy, but crazy. Relax, take this time, and don't be a maniac of like, you got to get back and crazy. Actually, I'll name drop a little bit, but I remember so I got hurt in January, in December. My surgery is in January 2013. I go up to WrestleMania in New York that year in March 2013. So 3 months after my surgery, 3 and a bit. And I see Randy Orton, and he was funny. He said, man, he said, I love it. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, he asked me how my knee was. And then he was like, he said, I like how pale you are right now. And like, you're not as quite as jacked. He's like, so I can tell that you're not going crazy with this, like not being on the road, which he was right. I mean, obviously it's a balance, and everyone's going to be different. And it's a matter of like, okay, like your life just changes when you're on the road 24/7, and all of a sudden it goes from like 100 to 0. It's a change, man. Just like going from 0 to 100 is a giant change.
Exactly. So after you're recovered, you start back in with the wrestling and everything, right?
With my knee, yes, sir. Yep.
Okay. And you're back to doing like just the maintenance massage in between shows and everything, right?
Yeah, and in my time where I had that, when I did have my knee surgery and I was at home for the first time in a long time like that, this is where I did start getting more regular massages, just because like doing that rehab is tough, man. Like learning how to like run it, like learning how to kind of walk again, but learning how to run again is a weird thing when you're 32 years old is bizarre.
Exactly.
And
so
just the training, like my conditioning wasn't the same. So like, like I was using different muscles to help me out and kind of fake it a little bit. And so I started getting a lot more massages during that time.
Right. What muscles were they specifically working on to help you?
At the rehab, or just in general?
Both. So during the rehab and then after rehab.
During the rehab, they'd always be like rehabbing they'd always be like massaging my knee, and especially at first getting
just around the patella, or
like right on the kneecap. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And then anywhere else I'd go, for the most, it would just be like full body massages, and like I would of course tell them like I had knee surgery, whatever, like 3 months ago, and so they just would like move me gently, but like they would do the normal like massage my legs. Right. But there wouldn't be no like not a lot of like stretching during the massage.
Right. No stretching, no traction, especially on the knee, right?
Yeah.
I imagine. Definitely want to let those areas heal before you get back in and do more work on those. Okay, so after you have rehab, you're back on the road, you're back on TV, you're doing your thing. Can you tell us about the Samoa Joe incident?
Yeah,
this is the big one, everyone.
Yeah, it's the big one. It's definitely the big one. It was I was back on the road full time. I was literally like that. I get hurt on June 1st, 2015, but from like I wrestled Neville at that first takeover is the end of May 2014. So like from that like April, May 2014 to June 2015, I had a pretty good run for my body of work. I was it's my best work. It's my best work by far. And I'm in a way, I'm proud of it that or I am very proud of it. But in a way, there's a little, at least like when I got hurt, I try to look at the silver lining. At least like when I got hurt, I hadn't started like descending. I was still ascending. So like, at least like that kind of feels good, if that makes it. A part of it makes it sting a little more, where it's like, damn, who knows what that potential could have been. But the other part was, if I'd had the same neck injury a year earlier, I wouldn't have accomplished that yet. So like, then I don't know, it wouldn't be the same. I don't know. The match with Joe, just it came down to I took his finish, the muscle buster, and
that's where you're up on his shoulder, your head's right here, and he's holding on to your legs, right?
My head's inside his shoulder, and he's got my legs. My legs are bent up here, and he's got my legs. And most people's arms are kind of in here, I noticed. I have a picture. Mine, so if I'm Joe holding like this, I'm actually, both my arms are wrapped under his. So if like, I'll send you a picture after. You know exactly what I'm talking. So
right.
I had nowhere. If you look at the picture, your physics, you will absolutely understand why this happened. I had my arms in the wrong spot. It just was. I had never wrestled him before. I'd met him a little bit at Christian's house a couple times, and I met him in Ring of Honor one time. I wrestled there, and he was always, even. Yeah, I just saw him on Thursday, and Wednesday, and he's never been anything but a gentleman to me. It just was one of those things and when we hit, like when you see the picture, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. When we hit, my head has nowhere to go. It like all the weight pops up, and then the ligament holding my C2 in place ruptured like on impact. And I saw the brightest white light of my life. Like I've been concussed. I've had a few concussions wrestling, and you see a little white flash. Right. This was like a thick white. Like I was going through this light for so long. It's like, damn. And I was completely paralyzed from the neck down for a few seconds. Probably.
Right, yeah. I was about to say, you actually rolled out of the ring after that, which is amazing.
Probably 5 seconds. I was paralyzed. And then once the paralysis went away, now it was like a pretty intense pins and needles.
Right.
Like now, like
paresthesia.
Now the feeling was coming back. And then almost like that scene from Alien where like the alien comes out of the stomach. That's what it felt like was happening in the back of my neck. It felt like something was gonna shoot through the back of this creature was about to burst out of the back of my neck.
Right.
And I can laugh about it now. But 8 years ago, definitely, I didn't have a smile on my face while this was going down.
No, I sent you a text, I think, when you were in the hospital. I had no idea until like 2 days later. I'm like, are you okay? Dude, you said, I'm fine. Like, I don't think you were fine. So what, after that happened, obviously you go to the hospital, right?
Yes, sir.
How quickly after you get to the hospital do they get you into surgery to get that fixed?
So here's another quick little side story. I have a friend who messaged me, said, hey, I just saw the results. You wrestled Samoa Joe. How was that? I said, yeah, how was Joe or something? And I was like, yeah, he's cool. And then he messages me like maybe an hour later, goes, yo, I read that you got hurt. And I sent him a picture as I'm sitting in the hospital with a neck brace. And he was like,
right.
What? You didn't say that a second ago. I said, you didn't ask. You didn't ask.
Exactly.
So I get hurt. I go to the hospital. They do, I believe, a CAT scan. And then I'm sitting down, and then almost like a SWAT team. This like group of medics come in, and they're like, don't move. And they cut I remember they're like, we're going to have to cut your shirt off, sir. And I was like, yo, I can just take it off. Like, no, don't move. And they like cut my shirt off, and like, they were intense, and they were bringing me to a different place that specializes in cervical injuries. And so they brought me there but there wasn't a room for me. So there was a bed. I slept in a bed. By sleep, I mean, I laid in it, in the basement of this hospital, man, freezing, no real phone service, like one bar. If I moved it in the right spot. Oh, here we go. I got one. It was pretty horrible. Then the doctor came in the morning, and He might need, I always say this, he might need a course on how to talk to people, but
Bedside manner, not the best.
he at least hit me with the truth. He came walking in, man. It might be, I feel like it's like 10 a.m. Cesaro just got there with my Starbucks order and my Chipotle order, which I promise you he knows to this day because he's just wired like a madman. And he's truly a great human and a great friend. So he's in there and the doctor comes in, and he said, hey, he said, we have to do emergency surgery. He's like, you have a C2 injury. We have to fuse your C1 and C2. And he said, your wrestling career is over. And I was like, oh, hi, nice to meet you too.
Well, at least he didn't
but
let you get your hopes up,
But here's the thing, man. When I experienced that paralysis and when I sat there that whole night with just the pain in my neck, and I knew I would never wrestle again.
Right.
So when the doctor said it to me, I was so numb at the time. But and I tell the story, but like Cesaro's the one who starts like kind of wiping his eyes. That's how upset he was for me.
Right.
I'd come to that realization while I was sitting there, by this point, it had been over 12 hours that I'd been hurt. So anyway, he did want to do surgery like right away. Then Natty was very funny. She said, hold on, are you the best? And to his credit, so he might need a little lesson on how to break bad news to people, but he has great self-awareness. Natty said, hold on, we have access to the best through WWE. Are you the best person? Because this is obviously a really bad injury. And he said, I can do this surgery. He's like, but to be honest, I'm not the best. And Natty said, well, then I'm sorry, but I don't think we'll. So then what he was going to do is going to let me give me like a, authorized, like he was going to let me leave the hospital and then come back I had to promise him I wouldn't do anything. And then,
they need to do emergency surgery, but they'll let you leave the hospital.
This is what he decided this moment.
Doesn't make a lot of sense.
But then when he found out that I didn't live in San Antonio, he changed his mind and now I wasn't allowed to leave. So they had to get an airlift. The surgeon happened to be here in Tampa. Now he's in Phoenix, Dr. Uribe, but he just happened to be in Tampa. So then I'm sitting in that hospital in San Antonio for a few days, waiting on an airlift. But I did get a room that Tuesday morning. They brought me up to a room. So I had
Perfect. So how long was the rehab for that injury?
So that one's weird.
And what kind of rehab were they having you do?
There was no real rehab. Yeah, it just was. They're like, hey, so this injury is going to be different than what you've had before. Like, this one's the opposite. Instead of like with the knee, they put that tissue. They used my patella tendon to make a new ACL in my knee. Right. So like you're introducing like it's your body's tissue, but you're now making this new thing, and you got to stretch it. And with the neck was very different. They said it's the opposite. We don't want you moving. You got to let that bone fuse. Exactly. So, but when the surgeon went in, he was like, two things. He said, wow, it was the surgery he thought was maybe going to be about 2.5 hours. It was 4.5. And he said, the two things were, he said it was more of he said, man, your head had no stability when I went in there. He's like, it was a bobblehead. He said what took so long was going, because he went through the back and the rear, and he didn't want to cut through the muscle and damage it. So he was gently like combing. And he said, you have such a dense amount of muscle in your neck. He said, okay, let's take religious stuff. Let's take God out of it. He said, I would chalk the only reason you survive this is due to the muscle in your neck. He's like, but he kind of insinuated he felt it was more God than the muscle in my neck.
All right.
That's his belief.
All right. So rehab, essentially you're just keeping your neck still, right?
I had the collar. So I get the surgery about 3 weeks after the injury, but I'm at home every day, like doing nothing. I just have like the collar. I was doing I was allowed to go to the gym, but I have to wear the collar everywhere. It's also, not only is it helping me, it's also a little bit of a billboard of like, hey, this guy, there's clearly something a little bit wrong. So like, don't bump into, you know what I mean? And so I was allowed to do like some stationary bike, but I had to be very careful. I'd only go to the gym with Natty. And but otherwise I don't. And then I wear that brace for another 3 months post surgery. So I wear it for 3 weeks prior and then 3 months post. So almost 4 months of that collar. If you want to, either if you have a worst enemy you want to torture, or if you have a friend that you want to test your friendship and see if maybe they will be your enemy, put that collar on them for 4 months and see what happens.
Exactly. Yeah, it doesn't seem like something I'd enjoy personally.
Horrible is horrible.
So, what kind of massage do you receive now? Since you're retired, you're not. I mean, obviously, you're still exercising, lifting
Yeah.
weights, doing cardio. Uh, are there specific things that you try to do now, or is it just kind of whatever?
Well,
Um,
now I get more massages than ever, and it's a lot of. I have a guy here that comes twice a week and works on me. He does like a bunch of adrenal stuff
okay,
and a lot of like. Most of it's very light to the touch stuff, but it like I don't know, man. It's almost otherworldly. Worldly. I'll just like I will get some of the best, deepest, like little maybe 20 or even hour-long naps ever. Like it's wild his stuff, and I felt really good ever since he started working on me. And I get a lot of deep tissue massages and sports massages. I have a guy that comes here usually once a week or once every 2 weeks, and then I have two memberships at two different massage places,
gotcha.
like 20 minutes from me. So I mean, I'm getting massages all the time.
All the time, and Natty's still on the road. So
Yep,
is she
and
getting
she's getting massages all the time too. Like, I wish I'd gotten done this type of maintenance while I was on the road. I'm glad I'm doing it now, and I feel really good. All things considered, especially I feel amazing.
right?
But I wish I had been smart enough to do this while I was a in-ring performer.
Exactly. So when you get massages, do you just kind of trust the massage therapist and what they want to do, or do you develop kind of a treatment plan with the therapist?
Like if it's a like sometimes I'll just like book. I'll be like, I'm tired from this flight. I'm gonna book a massage for when I get home, and I'll just book a massage. Sometimes I'm not able to get in with like my regular people. So if it's someone that I haven't really worked with, I will tell them that I had neck surgery. I'll be like, it's a long time ago, and obviously you'll see the scar or whatever. But
Right.
everyone that's worked on it has been pretty good.
Awesome. So is with the neck injury specifically, are there any precautions that the therapists take with you, or obviously not, probably not a lot of traction going on in the neck?
Yeah, not a lot of traction, not too much like movement or stretching. Like both of my massage girls, they both are big into a lot of stretching. They do a lot with the legs and the arms, but with the neck, they are very gentle in terms of the stretching. Like they will stretch, but they will gently, and they'll get me like kind of there, but it's nothing. It's nothing. No, not forceful or anything.
Awesome. And that's all communication. You communicated what happened in the past, and
Absolutely,
they know to just kind of watch out for
absolutely.
that, right?
Well, the one girl, so I guess I didn't know what happened. My neck, it was post surgery, and my neck, something happened. A guy was talking to me at the grocery store, and when I turned, something got caught, and I
Hmm.
just felt like my body gets so tight for like 3 days, like yawning. If I'd yawn, it would hurt my neck so much. And I went and saw my massage girl, and at this point, I just am developing this relationship with her, and I'm explaining to her what's going on, and she's working on me. And as she's working on me, she's working on my back and stuff. And now she's on my neck, and all of a sudden you just feel this like she said, I was like, oh, I was like, that feels so amazing. And she said, oh, she said my ligament was stuck on a screw. The
Okay.
ligament in my neck was stuck on one of the screws in my neck.
All
And when
right.
I
That
saw
makes
my
sense.
surgeon for my 6 month checkup, and I explained that to him, and it happened just prior, maybe at the 4 month mark or something. And he said, oh yeah, that's pretty common,
Right.
which I didn't know. But like I thought she was like I thought she was like the best like voodoo miracle worker of all time when she got that tendon off that screw.
Got it. Okay. So I think those are all the questions I have. Do you have
Hell yeah.
any massage therapists or anything you want to plug while you're here?
Man, I wish I knew like their last names. There's the girl Corey at Massage Envy in New Tampa, and Ivy in Hand and Stone in New Tampa, and then my guy Matt. He's like, he kind of works in NXT a little bit. This guy's just he works on everybody. Like Corbin, he works on like the roster. Matt, he works on at least half the roster,
Gotcha.
keeping us all going. So
sounds like he's pretty busy then.
Yeah, they're busy people.
Okay. Do you have any anything you want to plug while you're here? Any social media, anything like that?
I mean, I'm on Instagram. I'm at TJ Wilson 711. The
TJ Wilson
711.
711.
It's my birthday.
Right.
And I'm on Twitter.
I thought you just love slushies. That's it. Or Slurpees, excuse me.
Well,
Slurpees.
And then I'm on X or Twitter, whatever it is today, at TJ Wilson. And then I have Workhorse Fitness as well. But
Workhorse, that's like fitness related products, supplements,
yes.
Stuff like that, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
And it's really just I guess it's more of it is those things, but what we're kind of developed, like the little community that we have of it, is it's developing almost like just making yourself better, like getting, just whatever that is. If it's working out more, if it's, taking care of yourself more, just being a little bit more attentive to your body's needs.
Getting more massages, of course.
Absolutely.
Stuff like that. Okay. So TJ, it's been great talking to you.
Hey, my pleasure.
Sorry to keep you so long. Just a
no
lot
problem.
to talk about, of course.
Yeah.
So thanks a lot.